What's up, everyone? Beast Mode back here with another video. So today I'm going to do something a little different. We have Deck Devastators 3, which is going to be probably the first premier tournament that they will be offering Edison Worlds invites. It'll take place this Saturday, so about 3 days from now. So because this channel is going to, mainly focus on competitive Edison content, I think that it's probably best that we discuss the potential metagame and what we can expect going into the tournament. Now, I could be completely wrong on most of this discussion, but this is just kind of what I've observed and kind of how I feel the current metagame sits at this time. So to catch everybody up, there were a couple tournaments since Worlds. Worlds was in November. It was, smaller tournament, 40 or 50 people in Worlds, and everybody kind of played more or less mainstream decks aside from maybe the Christia Sworn deck that topped, and then obviously Fairies ended up winning. So not much change in terms of metagame from that tournament. Since then, there was a couple Swiss tournaments here. I actually have them pulled up here. This is Peak of the Beak 1. I did play in this. I played, 3 rounds of it. I ended up playing like 2 burn decks. I think I was 1 and 2, and I know a few players topped with 2 losses, but I decided that I wasn't going to keep playing. I think this tournament took almost 6 weeks to finish. It's just not something I felt like, going the whole distance playing this weeks in and weeks out. So, but this tournament took place. It was about 70-ish players, and 79 actually. And then we had Peak of the Beak 2, which actually went a bit quicker. I think it was a round less, and there was 85 players. So. Now, not every single quote unquote pro or not every one of the best players played in all these tournaments, but there were a good portion of great players playing. In this tournament here we had Raikoko 7. He's a really good player. Hydro Pumps here. Souls Manic is known for his Flameville deck. So the field definitely had good players here. It's not that there weren't any. So what can we take from this tournament and see if we can have an idea of what maybe the metagame will be on Saturday. So obviously the main decks are still going to be played, right? Black Wings, Bayou. Black Wings, Bayou. You probably see some zombies. And I would say those are the top 3. Definitely, they have been. But what's odd here is that if you look at Peak of the Beak 1, which took place probably the beginning of December, see that there was more zombies here. Silchus is always topping with his build. And then we have typical Black Wings. But what was different here was Raiko's build, which I can pull up here, Raikoko 7. Let me see, 1 second. This here, playing Raikos now. So zombies look like they've kind of maybe they've changed. I'm not saying that this build is better than my build or Silchus's build. Maybe it's just, I think it's just different. But I'm not sure the reason for all the Raikos and hamsters, but I will tell you that these hamsters really cause a problem for the zombie deck, which is one of the reasons why I don't think it did as well in Peak of the Beak 2. As you can see, it was the first tournament that there was no zombies that topped out of 80 players. I think there was a small portion of zombies. Let's see here. Representation. There were 7 zombie players, and nobody had made it into the top 12 players with with zombies. So I'm not sure if it's just more players are siding against it, or maybe there wasn't as many good players playing it. I don't know, but this is interesting here to see how in Peak of the Beak 1, the zombie deck has kind of taken a new turn, or has been changed here, with now we're main decking hamsters and Raikos. And again, I'm not a huge fan of the whole milling aspect of the deck, because you just don't know what you're going to mill, and you can mill a diva and now you only have 1, or you can mill both divas, and or you mill heavy or mirror force, and that's valid, valuable information that you're just milling away, and your opponent now doesn't have to worry about playing around. So I think a lot of this deck, the reason why it did so good is just mainly the player. Raikoko 7 is literally, got to be now moving up everybody's top 10 in terms of players of the format. He's winning everything. So actually beat me in top 8 in one of the RBT. So I'm not sure if zombies are morphing into this type of build, or if it's maybe a third build. I know Xeris has been playing Raiko in his build for months, and he actually topped worlds with 2 Raikos in the deck. So it's interesting now that we kind of have a third zombie build. We have this build here, we have the Silchus build, and then we have the control build, more or less, if you want to call it that, or the straight, straight zombie build there, the one that I've been playing. So we have 2 of the exact same decks kind of in the top 12 here. His Silchus's hero deck is hero zombie is really good. So can we, do I expect Flame Belcher to necessarily top the next tournament? I don't. I know that Souls Manic is probably the best Flameville player and one of the few Flameville players, so I wouldn't expect, unless it's him, that you're going to necessarily be playing against Flameville every round. But the things that I would prepare for, which would be very similar to every other tournament, because I don't think that that necessarily, like, the format has changed so significantly because of these 2 tournaments. I will say that I do feel that there's more Blackwing players now, because I think it's pretty obvious that the deck is obviously the best deck at this point. It's just dominant. 16 Blackwing players, 14 value to turbo, so you're talking 30 Blackwing variants alone out of 89 players, 85 players. So, half the field is Blackwing of, some type of Blackwing deck. Frog Monarch actually is just as popular as zombies in this tournament. So what I do feel is that the metagame might be making a small shift, and we're just going to see more Blackwing players and more value players, which actually hurts zombies, because the value deck is tough. Because of the let's pull it up. The hamsters and the Raikos are very difficult for specifically my build to deal with, because of the fact that it's not easy to make a Stardust Dragon. You have a lot of recruiters, and your opponent goes first. They set a face down. If it's a hamster, you summon a Pyramid Turtle, attack into a hamster, and then they grab a Raiko, and you're just so far behind, especially if they have a Kaya. So that can be really difficult to deal with. And now Raikoko's build, which is what we're looking at here, actually main decks the hamster. So now them going first, when he goes first, he's setting a hamster, which also combats a lot of the Blackwing decks, because Shura can't run it over. So you can, A, Raiko kills Shura, or B, the hamster doesn't die and then grabs the Raiko. So I'm not sure if this is where we need to go with zombies, but I do think right now zombies are kind of maybe the 3rd or 4th best deck right now, just because I feel that the field is kind of shifting to more value in Blackwing. And again, Blackwing is very common. It's a popular deck just because of I think it's an easy deck to pilot, but it's a very difficult deck to master, and it's tough to play mirror matches all day with that deck. So these tournaments here are the top 12. As you can see, Peak of the Beak 2, Hydro Pumps deck. Also, another reason why zombies are in a difficult position is because you see how everybody's main decking triple D prison right now? You can't even attack with any of them. Every deck here, you just count them: double D prison, triple D prison, triple D prison, triple. You got Blackwing decks main decking triple D prison now. So that puts zombies down another notch, as well as the fact that some of the value decks and Blackwing decks are still main decking Royal Oppression, which I disagree with. I just don't think it's necessary. Right here, I think maybe 1 at most, because the problem is zombies are getting bumped aside because of the fact that there's so much hate for them naturally. Just look at everybody's side deck to begin with. The crows are everywhere. You have Thunder King here. It's relatively easy to side deck against a deck already. Never mind the fact that if you're playing Blackwings, you'd have Royal Oppression in the side deck. And then you have D prisons. There's just so much hate for zombies as there is. But the problem is, main decking all these Royal Oppressions, they only stop zombies, quick draw. It doesn't really stop Blackwings or value. So I just don't feel like if you're playing Blackwings that you should probably main deck the card. It doesn't seem like a good idea, because if you're playing mirror matches, it's going to be dead. So I do see some of the players, specifically Hydro Pump, where is his list here? He cut the Royal Oppression all together because, he knew that most of the field was going to be on Blackwings. He was going to play a lot of that, or value, and it just doesn't do anything. And if he plays zombies, he still has a decent matchup game 1 because of the fact that he's playing A, Blackwings, and B, he has D prison. So he can just side deck in Royal Oppression. So I just don't think that they're necessary here. But as you can see, if you're a zombie player, you really got to, you might feel a little nervous here going to the tournament playing zombies, because of the fact that there just seems to be a lot of hate for them. I know a lot of these decks are side decking triple Deck Devastation virus. Let's see here. Is this one on him? Triple Deck Devastation. So you have triple Deck Devastation, triple Crow, triple D prison, double Royal Oppression. How do you play? You just can't play. So again, do I think that zombies can still top? Absolutely. I think that you'll see Silchus Ruin top. There's a chance I could top. I do think that there are players that can top with the deck, but first off, the deck is not easy to play, number one. Number two, you have a lot of players who play it because it's cool, especially the hero build. It is cool. You have zombies, you have heroes, but the deck is extremely difficult to play, especially at the level of Silchus. And then on top of it, you go into a tournament where it definitely feels that there's just more and more hate towards the deck. So we're just going to review what I think you will definitely see 100% here. So this is, again, Raikoko zombie deck. I'm not sure if this is what people will begin playing. Definitely helps with the Raikos to hit the back row, specifically the D prison and all that. I'm not sure if this was just a matter of pilot skill, which I do think that's probably the case. So what I do think that we're going to see, like I talked about already, is let's see, I have a bunch of decks here, but I do want to talk. So Vio Turbo, I think this was Lydiobs who topped one of the Peak of the Beaks. Again, double Deck Devastation Virus is killing zombies, so main deck's the one Royal Oppression, which is probably the right number. One on the side, double DD Crow. So this build here, and then Hamster by itself with the Raikos, it's already difficult to play when you have the recruiters, specifically, like even Silchus' build with double Turtle, double Tomato. It's difficult into that. In a perfect world, if they go first and they set a Raiko and you have a Goblin Zombie, then that's a great answer, but I think zombies are going to need to be having a good day in terms of going first, or just having really good pilots. So I would, again, caution you, if you're somebody who's new to the zombie deck and you're playing in this tournament, I don't know if this is really the tournament to be testing the deck in. So I do expect to see a lot of value, which has been very common throughout all of the tournament, RBT series and all that. I would expect to see, let's see here, Hydro Pump. This is the latest zombie build at top. Latest Blackwing deck to top, which is just straight Blackwings, none of the hybrid stuff here. And the Triple D Prison now seems to just be everywhere. And again, didn't even side deck Royal Oppression, so just feels that his deck beats most of those decks straight up, specifically zombies. No need to even side deck the Royal Oppression because, again, there's not many decks that you're going to side deck Royal Oppression in aside from maybe Quick Draw, zombies. I'm sure I'm drawing a blank here, but you're not going to side deck Royal Oppressions in the mirror match. You're not going to side them in against Value, which are the two prevalent decks. So they're just taking up side deck space too. So I do understand his thought process here. So Blackwing is going to be everywhere. Obviously, that's just the best deck. It's just the most consistent, has the most plays. It's user friendly for the most part until you stop playing better players with it. So Blackwing, Value. I would specifically say probably Blackwing first, Value second. What else do we have here? We kind of looked at the Raikoko deck, which I think is probably more so in fourth place. I think third place would probably be Frog Monarchs. This build here, I'm not entirely sure what it is. This is Ragnarok. He builds crazy stuff. He's the best frog player I know, or seen. But I don't think it'll be anything like this. I think it'll just be straight Frog Monarch. It's just, I think it's the way the deck is. It can just outpace you in terms of just tempo control, in terms of summoning a guy, removing, monster removal, go next turn, just doing the same thing. It's hard to keep up with just the +1 every turn. This deck also, I know people believe zombies can beat the deck, and sure they can, just because of Book of Life. But the problem is Book of Life, there's only 2 Book of Life in the deck game 1, and they have access to Treeborn Frog instantly. So you're waiting to hard draw Book of Life to banish the Treeborn Frog while they're just monarching every recruiter that you have. So you really don't get to play the game. You set a Pyramid Turtle, they go, they Caius a Pyramid Turtle, you draw. You have to literally summon Mystic Tomato or a Pyramid Turtle and crash there to try to search something, which is just going to get Caius Arise the next turn. So I do think that frogs are, very close to zombie. I do think they beat zombie more regularly. There's games where you can just get blown out. And so I would more or less say Blackwing, Bayou, and I think frogs are probably positioned in third place right now. And then I would say the more conventional zombie build, something like this. This is probably on the outside looking in right now. Probably fourth place, I would say. It depends on the player playing, of course. You know what I mean? I'm not saying all zombie decks are dead and they'll never top again. I don't think that's going to be the case. I do think that you might see, I think it's going to be cut to top 12. There's a chance that a zombie gets in, maybe 2. But I think that you're more than likely going to see 4 Blackwings, maybe 3 Vayu, a couple frogs. And a lot of this really depends on the players playing. And I think we focus so much on the deck themselves, where, you know, a lot of the focus could be on the players piloting these decks, right? If you have really good players, examples, you have Rognok playing frogs, you have Silchus playing zombies, you have Hydropump on Blackwings, just some of these top tier players playing these decks, well, they're more likely to top, right? So I think that zombies probably fourth. My honorable mention would be the let me just pull it up here, would be the hero build, hero beat. So this deck here is positioned to do well, and the reason why is because it's not a double elimination tournament. Because this deck here beats Blackwings very well. This actually won a I'm not sure who the player's name, Frazier, I think his last name was, actually just won a 60-person in-person tournament for Switch with this deck. And the deck, I think he played like 4 or 5 Blackwing players, and the deck just beats Blackwing. You have Starlight Road, eats up Icarus Attack, still main decks 1 Royal Oppression, which going into a paper tournament might be fine, because some of those plays might just be on quick draw, just because they remember that of the tournament. You know, not everybody's up to top-notch metagame. A lot of the online players are, just because if you're playing online, you're probably involved in the series and you just know what everyone's playing. But here, and also Snowman Eater just really is a difficult out for Blackwings. They have to waste the Collude on it if they want to get over it. So the deck just beats Blackwings pretty well. It probably struggles a little bit against Vayu Turbo, I would think. And the reason why I think this deck here, obviously, if you look here at Peak of the Beak 2, top 12 decks, is this Peak of the Beak 2? Yes. Sorry, it was Peak of the, oh, here it is right here. So there's a couple here that actually top 8'd. And then again, Raikoko on Lice 1. So just goes to show you how good of a player. Well, just great range on decks. So this deck here, both of them are already top. So I do think that because it's a Swiss tournament, that you'll be able to see some of these decks sneak in, maybe X2, just because it's a little bit more forgiving, the fact that once you lose twice, you're out, right? In a double elimination, the RBETs. So that really eliminates a lot of those rogue-like decks, or decks that might, you can get very unfortunate with this deck and maybe play against, I don't know, maybe a quick draw deck or something that just happens to get lucky and it's not really geared to beating. And then you take a second loss and you're out of the tournament. Whereas in the Swiss tournament, you can still top. And these decks here, you don't want to see one of these in top 8. Because especially if you're playing like Zombie or Blackwing or something, because this deck can just take over a game in a couple turns. So this would be kind of the honorable, maybe the 5th best deck of the format, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple sneak into the top 12. Now, the secret tech deck that I do think is positioned to do very, very good here, the problem is I just don't think anybody's good enough to play it aside from a few of the quote-unquote pro players, aka Pro Storm probably, is Fairies. I don't actually have his fairy list. This is Sunny's fairy list from one of the earlier Deck Devastators. But this deck right here is actually positioned to do pretty good right now because of the fact that I feel like everybody's on Blackwing. And this deck here can beat Blackwing pretty well, has a good matchup against it. It's a good deck overall, but it's difficult to pilot, and it's not very forgiving. So if you do make a misplay or get out-tempoed, it's hard to come back. But the big thing is it can side deck double Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, which just destroys Blackwings. It just has access to a lot of good side deck cards. Can also play Royal Oppression, which hurts zombies. This deck kind of can beat zombies as well, just because of the fact that they have DD Warrior Ladies in there, the double Thunder King. Again, I don't know Pro Storm's build, but if he does play in the tournament, I'm not sure if he does or doesn't, and plays Fairies, I would guess that he's likely going to top. But also there's no other player like him in the format, I would say. So, again, I do think that this is probably a decent tournament to maybe run Fairies if you're interested in it, but and also because it's Swiss, that's another thing too. So it gives you a little bit of room to work. Like, okay, I took, I'm 4-2 or 3-2. You can just win a couple more rounds and still have a shot at topping the tournament, whereas you'd be out in terms of, be eliminated from the RBET series. So I think the Swiss tournaments benefit some of the more rogue decks or meta call decks a little bit better, because you just don't get punished as hard if you take a loss here or there. So this is pretty much the video for today. I just wanted to get something in quick before Saturday. I'm going to try to figure out how I'm going to upload Saturday. Maybe I'll just upload Friday night. I plan on streaming Friday night. Maybe that's what I'll just do. I'll supplement the video with a stream. So Friday night's going to be hopefully the first stream, as long as everything goes according to plan. Between 7:30, 8 p.m. Eastern, I should be starting. Even if we get 4 or 5 players for the stream, I think we can play, maybe talk some metagame, maybe try some of the decks. I don't typically play test like crazy hard on the night before a tournament. At that point, I've already kind of decided. Really, at this point, play testing is kind of like, once you know the deck, you know the deck. You're really just kind of playing just to play. Side deck is probably the most important thing, like I've discussed in other videos. But so just want to talk about the metagame, what I feel is going to be really good. Again, just a quick summary. I think Black Wings are going to be even more played, more represented. The deck is really good, resilient, and it's shutting down a lot of like the zombie deck specifically, which was arguably the best deck of the format at one point, definitely top 2. And I think that's kind of fallen down a little bit. And I play the deck, and I can say that I'm just having a tough time lately with it. Value probably number 2, just saw by the sheer numbers of this tournament here. It's just so much Blackwing variant here. I know Value is a little different, but 30 almost half the field was playing one of these 2 decks. So I would say third place, probably Monarchs. Really close between Monarch and Zombie. And, I think Monarch's probably number 3, Zombie number 4. And then I would say Hero Beat for this tournament is probably number 5. Definitely can just beat any deck, depending on how they draw. And then the honorable mention here is Fairies. I do think that this is probably a tournament where you could run it. So please like, comment, subscribe. I usually respond to almost all the comments if I can. And I will see you all in the next one.